Language is a powerful tool. Within a split second, we can translate our thoughts and ideas into spoken language. And within a very short time, you are also equally able to decode what I'm saying. You understand the words, you understand the sentences, and you get another thought in your head. If I say car, you will think about a car. Distinguished linguists have explained to us that the power of language is probably due to the fact that what is wonderful about language is the fact that we have a finite set of elements that we can combine into an infinite number of sentences, right? So each time we open our mouth, we have, in principle, the opportunity to produce a sentence that nobody ever produced before in history. Now, what I'm interested in, whether that is actually the case, I think it's a wonderful idea, but it's also an empirical question, right? And today I want to focus your attention to the possibility that maybe also some other mechanisms are going on, which in this case is the use of linguistic chunks or idioms, as I will explain in a second. So my claim will be today that idioms or chunks, linguistic larger chunks, have the ability to make you more proficient, faster, and also more fluent when you're speaking. So what are idioms? These examples might be a little bit familiar to most people in the room. English, for example, has the nice idiom to spill the beans, or to let the cat out of the bag when you want to divulge a secret. And in Dutch, we would say the monkey comes out of the sleeve. Those are well-known examples. But there are also other types of chunks in language that might not be so familiar. Especially if you're a non-native speaker of Dutch, you might have encountered these before as special Dutch clock time idioms. If you want to tell the time in Dutch, strange things happen. So, for example, Dutch people would say something like 10 voor half 5, 10 before half 5, and what they really mean that it's 4:20. If you listen carefully, there was no 4 in that utterance, there was no 20 in that utterance, but still everybody knows what time it is, right? So Dutch people do not think like, oh, what's going on? They're like, oh, of course, 4:20. So they translate that immediately into their heads. Because they know the Dutch clock idiom in this case, so they know these expressions. There are other ones like 8 before half 5, which you don't encounter so often. And I know that because we actually counted them. So we went to Google and counted all the different Dutch clock time expressions, and you find that people tend to round clock times quite a bit. So appointments are at 10 past and a quarter past and so on. Now that's interesting because it means that if these clock times expressions are real frequent and used quite a bit, that they are probably stored in memory and they can be retrieved really easily while speaking, right? And this is what we actually tested. So we had people tell us the time. All they had to do is say what time it is, and then we measured how long it takes them to do that. And what you see here quite nicely, this is there are lots of details and I won't go into all of them, but what you see here is the response time for all clock time idioms of the Dutch hour on the x-axis. And so those are the clock times on the x-axis, and the y-axis the response times. And you don't need to look at the details, but I want you to focus on the pattern. And the pattern that you see here is that the 5-minute times, those that we use all the times to make appointments and stuff, that those are actually the fastest ones. The fastest responses are for the 5-minute times, the stored clock time idioms that we can retrieve in one go from memory. Now that's interesting, because if idioms or clock time idioms make us fast, that also predicts that idiomatic or chunk language makes us more fluent. Because if you're fast during thinking while speaking, that buys you a lot of time to do other stuff in the meantime, right? Because thinking, you have to think about what you want to say, and you can gain some time maybe by using those clock time idioms. And we tested that by having monolingual and bilingual speakers tell us stories. Actually, we had them watch a movie and then retell the movie. And what we did then, we started counting. What do they do? And 2 things we were counting. First of all, fluency. How fluent are they? How many ums and ahs and pauses are in there? You can just count those. And the other thing that we counted were collocations. Another type of chunk in this case. Why this one? Because nobody was really using idioms while they were speaking about the movie. Collocations are also very, very well-known chunks once you start thinking about it. In English, you catch a bus or you catch a cold, you commit a crime, or you make a mistake, you don't commit a mistake, for example. These are little combinations of words that as native speaker you have in long-term memory. So the combination of the words you know. And what we found is that as we predicted, the more collocations our speakers were using, the fewer disfluencies we found in their speech. So here we not only find that before we showed that they add to their proficiency, but now also we show that they make them faster. If this is maybe the moment in time where you think, oh, I really should learn some more chunks in whatever language I'm speaking because it helps me, there's no need to worry, because we have also recently found in a recent survey that learning of chunks goes on across lifespan. We had Dutch subjects look at a survey with 100 Dutch idioms and had them rate them for whether they knew them or not. And what you find is that if you are younger than 20, then there were only 40 of the 100 idioms that were really well known. That quickly changes once people start to go to university probably or go out into the world. And so their knowledge, just like their normal vocabulary starts to grow, and also their idiom vocabulary starts to grow. And the nice thing is that goes on quite for some time. So even in your 50s, you still pick up new idioms. So I hope that I have convincingly shown to us today that idioms have the possibility to make you more proficient, faster, and also more fluent while you're speaking. And this is how they affect the way we think. Thank you.